Nick, how are you doing?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me on, guys. Sorry, it took me a little second there. I had a little technical difficulty, but we're good to go. How are you guys doing?
Doing well, Nick. Were you playing Madden? I feel like you were live streaming on Twitch.
No, but if you look, this is usually the color that's in the background at that time. And that was from before I left for the Combine or maybe even the Super Bowl. And I just turned this back on for the first time. And I looked in the camera just now. I was like, oh, no, it's still green.
So I like to say, I got to ask you for some pointers because I need that. Me and Fernando need some pointers on the backdrop.
It is an IKEA shelving unit you can buy and you just fill it out with some stuff. And then I just put some LED strips that you can connect to your internet behind it, just around the top, and bought some little connect. It's very simple. It's very easy. Totally walk you through it.
That's awesome. Nick, every year you deliver with your all combine team. The 2024 squad was just released. We just wanted to know, did you get a chance to hit the bench press at the combine?
No. There was a few years ago where they used to do it on the backside. They used to use more of a footprint in the convention center and the space that they're in. And they would set up stands around the bench, and like Radio Row where it is now, there was like a big center section in between where the bench was. And I think they stopped doing it in there because fans would come in there and the cheers would get insanely loud while on the other side of a curtain, interviews are going on with the media. And I remember there was a few times where I'm sitting there and I'm just cheering, oh, come on, let's go, one more. While this player, a soft-spoken player, is speaking, and I'm like, well, this audio is useless. So the bench is no longer accessible for me, or at least I didn't seek it out this year.
Imagine telling, saying, hey, did you meet with the Giants or the Jets and so on and so on? It's like, yeah, give me another one. So yeah, I can see why they got rid of that one.
No, it would be really bad in the most important follow-up question of all time. Formal or informal?
I always forgot about that during my beat reporter day, so I'm glad I don't care about that anymore.
Yeah.
But I don't even know the difference between a visit, 30 days, whatever it is. I don't know. I lost track. I shouldn't give out myself that way. But
you have your 30 visits,
there you go,
which are like the priority visits, and then you have the formal informals, which are just the meetings with the people at the combine. That's all it is.
And then being asked, are birds real? So it's
have you ever seen a baby pigeon?
Yeah, so I'm sure you heard that the entire week out there, Nick. But let's get to some real journalism.
Nick, are you scared
of
competition?
What was that?
I'm asking Nick if he's scared of competition.
I was at that presser. Oh man, a highlight in the worst way. And then the guy who asked the question's been taking victory laps on social media since then.
Man.
Like, I think he followed up somebody was just like, why? And he's like, got to stand out in a presser. It's like, that's not the point of the presser. If you were supposed to stand out, you'd be on the podium, sir. But that's what you get.
Put that guy to do the bench press and the 40 and all that.
Are you afraid to compete after that?
Yeah, let's see what he can do.
Right.
Well, Nick, that's a good segue for now. That's why you're a pro. I want to think about the quarterbacks to start here. But yeah, no Drake May, no Jaden Daniels, no Caleb Williams, but we saw Michael Penix Jr. out there. He made your team. He was your quarterback for the all-combine team 2024. JJ McCarthy also competed. So I guess my question is, why Penix over JJ?
I actually have to go back and look at. I sent this yesterday, and yet it's already left my mind. Why Penix over JJ? JJ was uneven. I think anybody who sat there and watched that workout from front to back would agree. And people could call me a homer or I'm biased because I'm an Ohio State fan. It has nothing to do with that. JJ was a fantastic quarterback at Michigan for a number of different reasons, but I've always been concerned about whether his skills will translate to the next level because his passing wasn't as necessary as Penix at Washington. They were able to run the football really well, and everybody points to the Penn State game and they ran the ball like 33 times in a row to finish the game. But what I was more worried about was, can his accuracy shine with nobody coming after him with because he's a great playmaker. He's a great guy that plays well out of structure. He's mobile, he's athletic, and I was really disappointed to not see him run because the whole narrative, and I don't know who's feeding this to the insiders, but the narrative for the last few weeks has been, oh, just wait till you see McCarthy run. Wait till you see his broad jump. He's going to be fantastic. He's going to blow your minds. You're not going to realize how athletic this kid is. I'm like, I watched this kid in college. I know he's athletic. He can move. Like, he can run. And I watched him do it to Ohio State for 2 years, like the last 2 years. So I was disappointed to not see him do that stuff. Right. But he was going to throw. So I was like, all right, let's see if the throwing translates, because that's going to be the biggest question. And some throws, it was like, wow, that was really nice. That was accurate. His feet are very solid. He's very comfortable. He's in rhythm. I like his drops and everything. but he just missed some throws, just some throws that you don't need to or don't want to miss, like a corner route, like an out route. I understand you don't have a rapport with some of these receivers, and Penix, you would think Penix has an advantage because Odunze was out there, but they didn't get one rep together until the end zone fade, which they pulled off perfectly. So when I compared him to Penix, it was really no comparison. Penix was the best out there. He wasn't perfect. He was not CJ Stroud last year. I don't think we're going to see a combine like we saw last year between Stroud and Richardson, who Richardson missed some underneath throws, but God, that deep ball was gorgeous. Gave me chills. Gives me chills just thinking about it now. We're not going to see that type of performance, on an annual basis. Penix was the best one out there. And, you saw Joe Milton showing off the big arm, but that kid's got a cannon, flick of the wrist, and he threw a corner route, threw like some loft into the first one, right? The second one was flat and right on target, to the point where me and one of my editors later were like, did you see that second corner route that Milton threw? And I was like, the flat one? He's like, yeah, because it was just a rocket. But he wasn't, super consistent either. The only really consistent guy out there with legit live arm talent was Michael Penix. So it was a pretty easy decision there. Probably one of the easier ones that I made in a class that is almost the opposite of last year. Last year, the running backs were easy to decide. The safeties were easy to decide. This year, the safeties were tough to get through. The running backs, you look at the guys I picked there and they're tough to get through. Quarterback last year was easy, and that was without Bryce Young throwing. And I think quarterback would have been even easier, or maybe harder, if Caleb Williams and Drake May had thrown, and Jaden Daniels. That probably would have actually made for a tough one and a better show. But overall, because Penix was he was just the best thrower of the guys remaining, and it was pretty obvious.
I'm guessing Texas wide receiver Xavier Worthy made it pretty easy for you to put him on the all-combine team.
No. Actually,
no.
Even
though he broke the record for with the 40-yard.
Yeah. So this is a philosophical difference that I have with my editors. And Saturday night we were out on the town, and they start getting on. They do this every year. They get on me for something, because I send it in pieces. I send the whole defense first, then I set kind of put it in a doc, and these are the guys I have. I write it up as I go, day by day. And they're like, how is Worthy not in there? The guy broke the record. And it's the all combine team. And a big part, some would say the most important part of the combine, is the testing. But I put as much value in the drills. And the reason is, historically speaking, I think this is my fifth all combine team, fourth or fifth, maybe even sixth. In the past, I sit in the stadium and watch these drills, every rep of every drill, and I'm taking notes the entire time for 4 days. The notes are very haphazard. They're sloppy. It's like just my thoughts. Sometimes it's just like solid, name solid. But then every once in a while I just write my thought, which is like Braden Fisk will blow guys up like the Balkan powder keg or whatever, like World War, what was that one? Archduke Franz Ferdinand, right? It was, so it kind of just, goes from one way to the other. But as I sat there and take those notes, oftentimes guys pop visually. And that's why I make it a point to be in the stadium every year. It's something that you just don't see on TV. The way guys move. Tristan Wirfs just moved different than everybody else in the field. Cam Jurgens, who Jason Kelsey, who had retired today, advised the Eagles to draft as his replacement a few years ago. He moved differently than everybody else out there. And they just showed. Tanner Bartolini from Wisconsin was that guy this year on the offensive line. And I didn't even pick him. He was my honorable mention because Jackson Powers Johnson tossed a line coach in the middle of a drill. Like, that guy's got incredible power. But they just flash. They show. And I value the drills a lot. And Worthy didn't do the drills. And so I was like, all right, well, he broke the record. That's great. And he tested insanely well, which is what we expected him to. He's a track guy, but he didn't do the drills. And I sat on that, and that was my justification that, look, man, you did half of the workout, so I have a hard time putting you on the list. And then I got to talking with my editors, and they were up on me about not putting Worthy on there. And they're like, you're going to get heat for it. And I was like, I'll take the heat. I stand by it. And then I ran into Rhett Lewis, one of my colleagues at the network. I ran into him on Sunday, and I talked to him about the receivers. And we talked about A.D. Mitchell, Odunze, Ladd McConkey, and Worthy. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to put Worthy on the team. I know he broke the record, but like, he didn't show that he can be a solid receiver. Like, he didn't do any of the drill work. And he goes, well, he caught 75 balls last year. And I'm like, huh. So then I went back and reviewed some of his tape, and I was like, okay, it is the all combine team, but because I have an incomplete picture here, I feel good enough about this kid and the fact that he set the record and lit the world on fire. A legit crowd pop. Like, I posted the video on Twitter, a legitimate crowd pop when the number flashed 422 on the screen. And then when 421, it was more of like a swell of applause for him. So at the end of the day, I was like, you know what, man, I'm putting him in there. Why not? Let's put him in there.
As long as he doesn't give John Ross vibes, I'm sure you might have had.
Well, that's the thing. That's what I fight back against. Is I'm sitting
you.
back there, and as soon as it goes 4-2-1 official, I turn around and look at everybody in the suite, and I go, "Congratulations, everyone! We can all move on from John Ross now because we don't have to talk about that anymore." Because John Ross, great college returner at Washington, speedster, couldn't run a route to save his life, couldn't stay healthy in Cincinnati, flamed out. And I hope that Xavier Worley does not have the same NFL experience. Yeah. But you do have that in the back of your mind when you think about guys that are speedsters like that. So without him running the drills, I was like, I have a hard time completing this picture. But you know what? Again, this class is loaded, and we didn't get to see a few of the other guys work out too. So I felt okay with it. But man, I can't wait to see where some of these receivers go, because I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr. didn't even talk to the media. All he did was get body scanned and do the evals and talk with teams, and he was out. And he would have been on the list if he'd worked out. I guarantee it, because that kid's just a natural talent who can stand on his tape. So that's
he
the
should have
downside.
Just gone up to the mic. He should have just gone up to the mic and been like, "You've seen my tape. Enough said," and just walked off.
I'm just here so I don't get fined.
Exactly.
I'm thankful. I'm thankful.
Exactly. Nick, I saw you put Washington's Romeo Odunze in your squad. I cover the Chargers. Do you feel like he's worthy of the number 5 pick? Is it Malik Nabers or maybe even Brock Bowers? I've even seen some where the Cardinals end up trading out so that somebody can come up and draft a quarterback, and then it could be Marvin Harrison Jr. Just where do you kind of see the Chargers there at the number 5 pick?
Yeah, you know, I'm a little torn there, because I was a big Gerald Everett guy in the past, and I like the tight end situation with the Chargers has been very fluid in the last few years, because like Hunter Henry couldn't stay healthy, and then he bounced, and Gerald Everett's headed to free agency, and they have Stone Smart and Donald Parham, and I think they like them both, but neither of them are very special. So like if you add a special talent, that's Brock Bowers, right? But you spend the 5th overall. I mean, he's an incredible player, and it's not a super surprise if he were to go 5th. Like some people think he's the best player in the entire draft, and if you get him at 5, you get him at 5. But we've also watched Atlanta waste Kyle Pitts for 2-3 years. And not saying that Jim Harbaugh is going to do that, and especially with Justin Herbert, but I am just a little hesitant to take tight ends that high. I like the idea of a trade to accrue more capital. It's not necessarily that you need you're not working with an entirely barren cupboard, but there are some areas that you could address. It's a weird spot at receiver for the Chargers, because they spent a pick on Quentin Johnston last year, who couldn't make a play to save his life. And you have Keenan Allen, and you've relied on Mike Williams, and it's almost like you're drafting not a position of privilege or surplus, because they needed guys to step up and make plays like Johnston last year, and they didn't. But I feel like that could maybe potentially be used elsewhere. I've seen them mocked to do a number of different things. I want to say, I think DJ had them taking a tackle. I want to say he had them taking Joe Alt. Yeah, Joe Alt from Notre Dame, which would be wild to have Slater and Alt, like your bookend tackles. Because look, let's face it, Justin Herbert hasn't been protected very well in the last couple of years. Yeah. And injuries were the main reason he got completely derailed last year. And that should be priority number 1 instead of going for the toy. But at the same time, you're in a position where you can kind of do whatever you want. So I think it comes down to their board and whether they rate guys, worth that pick, and how we'll see that, kind of unfold. It's going to be interesting. But the good thing is they have a quarterback. So like they don't have to worry about, like, if you look at the first 4 pick, like DJ's mock draft has Caleb 1, Drake May 2, Marvin Harrison 3 to the Patriots, Malik Nabers 4 to the Cardinals, and then they can do whatever they want. Like right there, you have 2 receivers off the board, right? But you could get Odunze, who's also a stud. You could go Joe Alt and take the best tackle in the draft. You could go a number of different directions. So I think they're really like in the catbird seat because they don't need a quarterback. Like they're not pressed for that. And they could also trade that out and get a ton of capital. So I really like what the Chargers could do here. It could go a number of different ways, but I do like their possibilities.
Speaking of that, you mentioned that and we keep on hearing that the offensive line group is deep. They're saying that it's there's a lot of talent there at everything when it comes to guard, tackles, center, like you said, with the kid from Oregon. But just what do you make of the offensive line group that's coming out this year?
I was incredibly impressed by what I saw. Now, I will say that the first group was better than the second group in terms of just like stacking them up one by one. There are like 5 guys at tackle right now who I would be thrilled to have. It would be Alt, Futanu from Washington, which Washington has produced some linemen that I've loved in the past that haven't necessarily done as well at the next level. Nick Harris being one of them. Fuaga from Oregon State, his tape is incredible. Like the way that kid gets to second level, he can move and he destroys guys at the second level. And I always love a good road grader like that can get to the next level, not just take out one guy, but take out 2 guys. That's always very valuable. I loved Christian Jones from Texas. I thought he moved well. Tyler Guyton, there was some up and downs in his workout, but overall I could see the vision with him. So there's like 5 guys right there that I think that you would be really happy with. There's a ton of talent there. There's a ton of talent at guard. The kid from Holy Cross does not pop up on anybody's radar, right? CJ Hansen. And as I'm like halfway through, I'm going through those notes that I talked about. And at one point I just said, I said the Holy Cross kid is damn good. Like just a good football player. Like that's one of the notes I made. I think by the time I got to like the screen drill or something. Christian Haynes from Connecticut. He was another guy that made my team who was a stud. Cooper Beebe. He's like listed in the top 5 prospects at guard. That definitely carried over. Jarrett Kingston, who was asked to play tackle and guard at USC and was probably a better player at Washington State. That kid can move really well. I love the way he would look in his zone scheme. And then you got guys at lower levels like Mason McCormick from South Dakota State. By the way, South Dakota State produced like 2 guys in this group that are like really good linemen that I'm really excited to see where they go. Michigan had like 4 linemen out there, Trevor Keegan being one of them. The Brady Latham kid from Arkansas, he was pretty good. The kid from Utah, Lamea, I'm intrigued by him, not necessarily entirely impressed, but intrigued by him. There's so many different areas that you can go with this group. And if you look at the Chargers line right now, you got Corey Lindsley, who's had a tough time staying on the field. Guard, I think, could be improved. Right tackle, Trey Pipkins, I've never been a big fan of him. So that's why I love the alt pick. But I think you can go in a number of different directions and really find a gem there. So if you're going to key in on offensive line, this is the draft to do it. There's tons of talent, good talent available in the first round.
Fernando, I'm gonna go back and watch this clip because Nick dropped a bunch of names there, and I got a bunch of draft stories to work on, and you just gave me a bunch of players to evaluate.
Just go back to the Holy Cross team. Yeah.
Just go. I did that last year, the year before that. So you do a great job.
CJ Hansen, I'm telling you, man, I haven't found his tape yet, but what I saw in his workout, I was like, that's just a damn good football player. Like that's a guy that's going to step in there and he's going to be like a Joel Petonio, who's just going to be out there and be a damn good guard for years. That's just now weight's an issue. He's like around 300 pounds and people are kind of worried about his size, but I'm not worried. If guy can play, guy can play. And that's why I love the drills, because oftentimes you can see in the drills that these guys can play.
Jason Kelsey said it today, and during his interview or during his retirement speech, he's like, "I wasn't heavy, but they wanted athleticism. They wanted guys that could play, and they weren't focused on the weight. They were focused on what I could do." So you might have something right there, Nick, with him.
Yeah, with because the thing that they've talked about, Joe Thomas talks about it all the time. He and I have spoken about this at length. Basketball players. You want basketball players at tackle. You want guys with athleticism and backgrounds in different sports that can do more than just be lumbering guys. Like there was, his last name was Crum, kid with the long flowing blonde hair who ran a fast 40. Like I think he ran like a 4.94 or something, and he was all fired up about it, and the hair got attention and everything. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty good because he's a big boy. And then I watched his drills, and he's got heavy feet, not in a good way. Did not move very well, and I was like, nah, Frank, not gonna make my list. Yeah.
Frank.
So yeah, Frank Crum. Yeah. So, sometimes that's what separates guys. And I think as this game continues to evolve and you see more of the zone schemes and you see guys like Kelsey who can get out in front and take on a guy with one arm and take out another guy and just do things that kind of defy logic when it comes to like the traditional sense of offensive lineman. If you can get guys that can move and get out there, it can unlock a whole different level in your running game that can make your offense exponentially better. So I'm always siding with the guys who are more agile, who are more athletic, because I think that's just the way the game's going.
Nick, one more for me. I know you've had a long week. I know you're tired, but let me ask you about
cruising, baby.
Okay. You're doing a good job. I remember I asked you in India, I'm like, you sure it's going to be a Monday? You don't have to. You said yes. We appreciate the time. But let me ask you about the cornerbacks. It seems like Alabama's Terrion Arnold is going to be the number 1 corner, but it seems like it could be a Nate Wiggins from Clemson. How about the kid from Toledo, Mitchell? How do you feel about the cornerbacks and how they perform over the weekend?
So I think they're all different guys. First off, Arnold could run for office one day. That kid's incredibly charismatic. Like not even his interviews on camera, his podium. Like I've just never seen somebody handle, because a lot of times you get guys come out there and they're coached and they give you lip service and they give you, the standard answers. And he did not. Like, he's expressed a lot of personality. I was incredibly impressed by him and his future as a leader and just as a personality. Not like a Sauce Gardner going to get my own Buffalo Wild Wings commercial personality, but just somebody who's mature and wise beyond his years. I think he is, like, I may have listed him one of his team fits with the Eagles. Yeah, because they got Bradbury and Slay, but one of those two is going to, like, Bradbury's under contract. Slay feels like this is probably going to be his last year. I know they had to redo his contract and everything, but it feels like one of those two guys are going to be gone. They're both not young. And if I'm looking at the Eagles, I'm thinking, what type of cornerback do I want to fit in there and replace one of those guys? And as I watched his drills, I'm just like, that guy is an Eagles corner. Like, that's a pro-ready guy who can come in and lock you down in man coverage and stay in your hip pocket. Like, he's going to be a stud. Not saying that he has to just go to the Eagles, but he's going to be a stud in that way. Mitchell is the athletic freak. He's the Reek Woolen of this group. He's super fast. He put down a great 40 time. Little inconsistent with his hands early in the drills. Looked like he was pressing, like he didn't trust his hands because he dropped an early one and tried to start body catching everything. And then eventually his hands came back to him and he finished strong. But that kid can fly. Played MAC ball, mid-major football. The adjustment to the NFL is going to be, something that he's going to have to, overcome. But I think he's so naturally talented that, I mean, look, man, sometimes you just get that raw talent. You get them into the right system and they just flourish. And you can have like a Reek Woolen type performance. Wiggins only ran and he pulled a hip flexor and that was it. So I didn't get to see a lot of him. Clemson as a team, I don't like to hold the team performance against them, but they weren't that good as they've been in recent years. And I haven't dug into his tape a lot, but I mean, the kid can fly and you can't teach speed. And especially in today's day and age of these burners that you got in the NFL. So I think that he carries a lot of value to him. And then you got a guy like Max Melton, who just tested off the charts as well. And he was solid in the drills. Like, there's a number of different guys with different styles, and it's really your preference and where you're picking. So if I had to like pick a cornerback one, it's probably Arnold, but I think that there's a lot of value in each of these guys for different reasons.
Nick, is it cool if some of the folks ask you some questions? Is that
absolutely
is that cool with you? All right, we'll do a couple.
I love a good chat.
There you go. Well, yeah. So guys, throw your questions out. Nick is ready to answer them. Dennis is asking, who's wide receiver number 1 in the draft?
It's Marvin Harrison Jr. and it's not even close. It's rare, and that you can call me a homer, but Joel Klatt has been saying this for 2 years. And I talked to Marvin about this at Ohio State's Pro Day last year because he went and ran routes for CJ Stroud, which I thought was impressive. And then we went and did a little one-on-one afterward. And I'm like, there's this guy out there who's been calling you the best receiver in the NFL in like 3 to 5 years. And he goes, yeah, Joel Klatt. And I was like, okay, so you've heard it. He's like, yeah. And he just started laughing. Like, he's a nice kid. The fact that he didn't do the media thing, everyone's like, oh, that's a red flag, blah, blah, blah. No, ignore that. This is one of those rare players that can stand on their tape and will have nothing to gain from the pre-draft process. He's the best player in the class at his position. He's been that guy since the year before. He makes spectacular plays. He made Kyle McCord into a serviceable quarterback. And he should not have even been a serviceable quarterback for Ohio State. There was a number of times where McCord would just throw it up to him. He'd make spectacular catches and make, chicken salad out of chicken, what, right? And I just can't argue with that. I think he's going to be a fantastic player at the next level. He's ready. And whoever gets him is going to be extremely fortunate. So that's an easy answer.
Is Joe Milton the Richardson in this draft?
No, I wish he was. I wish he was. I think his college history, he started at Michigan, ends up at Tennessee. He finally gets the job at Tennessee this year after Hendon Hooker moved on to the NFL, and they just didn't live up to expectation. And I think that the greatest example of that, and what you probably get from Joe Milton, who ends up being more of a project quarterback, is the way they played against Alabama. They had a great first half. They take a lead on Alabama. They're down in Knoxville. And then Alabama turns up the heat in the second half defensively, and Milton crumbled. There was a few times in that game where it's 4th and 8 or whatever, and they have to make a play, and he just didn't make a play. Now that could speak to the fact that he didn't have time to throw or whatever it is. Kid's got an incredible arm, but I think Richardson was more prepared, and I also think that Richardson really benefited from playing under Shane Steichen. Like, we overlooked the fact that Shane Steichen came into Indianapolis in his first year, lost the guy that he was torching defenses with a month into the season, and then was competitive all the way down to week 18 with Gardner Minshew at quarterback. Did a fantastic job of coaching. And I think quarterback, more than any other position, is so dependent on situation. CJ Stroud goes to Houston with D'Amico Ryan's rookie head coach overseeing a nasty defense that gets stronger as the year goes on. And Bobby Slowick, first-year OC, who schemes the offense around CJ's strengths, and they all flourish. They all blossom. Tank Dell comes in. Great pick. One of my favorite guys from last year's combine. He was on the all combine team there. They form a rapport. Nico Collins is his favorite receiver. You got Robert Woods out there, and CJ lit the league on fire, and he was a runaway rookie of the year by week 10. That is rare, and that a lot of that has to do with situation. So I think Joe Milton could become a productive quarterback because he has the natural arm talent, but he's got to be in the right situation. He's got to have time to learn and get comfortable. So I don't think he'll have the quick turnaround like Richardson.
Is Jalen Wright the next Devin Ashan?
He tested really well. He did not make my all combine team because this running back group, a lot of them did not separate themselves in the drills. There was, there wasn't a Bijan Robinson, there wasn't a Jahmyr Gibbs in this group. There just wasn't. But Achane was in that group last year, and I don't know if he made the team last year. He caught some people by surprise, and eventually, everybody caught on, and they were like, wow, this kid's a burner. Testing numbers matter a lot with running backs because that does carry over. So much that I went and looked at 40 times because I picked Bucky Irving from Oregon because I thought he did a really good job in the drills. Like he looks like a pro-ready guy, but I don't know if he has the physical tools to be special. But he's a guy that could be a change of pace back that can catch balls out of the backfield and everything else. And the Keelan Robinson kid from Texas, I think is going to be a great third down back, and that's why I picked those two guys. And he tested well, but testing matters so much at running back that I went back and looked at Nick Chubb's 40 time because I was trying to comp them to other players, and I think it was like 4.53 maybe, or maybe it was lower than that. And then I looked at Jerome Ford because I was trying to find a fit for Bucky Irving, and Jerome Ford ran a 4.49, and I'm like, well, Bucky ran slower than that, so they wouldn't replace Ford or maybe Chubb with Bucky, so that fits out. But when you get a guy who runs in the 4.3s and gives you a crazy broad jump and everything else, then suddenly you're talking about a really explosive player, and maybe he could be that guy. I'm not so certain, but maybe he could.
Quick, Nick, one thing that I'm kind of looking at this draft is, for the first time since being a head coach, Sean McVay has a first round draft pick. Just does that what intrigues you about that? What do you think? What route do you think he kind of takes?
So I think that this was,
and does he keep the pick?
Yeah, that's the big question, right? Les Snead and John Schneider love to trade out of the first round. I think the Seahawks finally used their first round pick for the first time last year, right? The Rams overachieved last year. If you look at their roster right now and you look at their depth chart, especially on the defensive side of the ball, you got a lot of no-name guys over there. I mean, we could talk about Christian Roseboom at linebacker and Michael Hoyt, and these are guys who made plays, but guys that don't register on the radar for you in terms of name recognition. And they got they maximized their talent and their production in the way that they were able to reach the playoffs. There are holes to fill, especially in the secondary. So I'm curious to see if they do try to go safety or corner and fill some of those holes, or if they try to address the offensive line, which was much better last year because they were healthier, but it's still not a great offensive line as it stands right now. They got a couple pending free agents there in Kevin Dotson and Coleman Shelton, and I'm curious to see if they address it there. So I think this will be a year that they use that pick because they need to, because they have some holes to fill. I don't know how they use that pick. I go back to DJ's mock draft, and he had them taking Jackson Powers Johnson, the center from Oregon, the mauler of a center, and who made my all combine team. And if you look at their depth chart, that addresses a need. I mean, they nailed it with Steve Avila last year. They got one of the guard situations figured out. They still haven't really found a legitimate replacement for Andrew Whitworth. Lark Jackson did the job last year and did a decent job. Rob Havenstein's still on the other side, but I think they can invest in the offensive line. And so I think that because they have so many holes, they're going to use that pick.
Nick, I think you mentioned on your all combine team, UCLA's Latu maybe as a fit for the Rams, the edge rusher.
Yeah. And you know why? Is because I don't know if I looked his comp up or not, but he gave me he reminded me of two guys, Jalen Phillips from Miami, which I think DJ mocked him to Miami. And then the other guy was Leonard Floyd, long rushers, right? Long rushers that have bend and the ability to get around the edge and take guys down. And I loved his workout, and I thought he tested well enough to make the team. And I think he could fit in a number of different places, but you have to be looking for a certain type of edge rusher. He's not a Jared Verse. He's not a Dallas Turner. He's a longer guy, and the injury history issue with the neck and how he was medically retired and then came back, that is a red flag. So I don't know where he ends up going. So maybe that does see him slide down to like 19 or 21 with Miami. That's where DJ's got him going right now because it fits what they do defensively. But I loved his workout, and I think if he could stay healthy, he could be a productive player like Leonard Floyd was, especially once he moved on from the Bears.
For now, I got one more for Nick, and it's a fun one because we used to work together. If people don't know, Nick and I at the old NFL Network, offices in Culver City.
Oh,
in the back row back there.
Yeah.
And Fernando, I used to hear our good friend Tyler Dragon always arguing with Nick Shook about who's better at Madden. So I'll bring the question: who's better?
Okay. I hope you clip this and send it to Tyler. So Tyler will randomly, I'll be on PlayStation and he'll randomly send me a message every once in a while. You trying to get beat? You trying to get beat in Madden? And the last time he played was not this Madden, but maybe last year's Madden. Tyler has run from, I run a Madden league, and he has run from my invitations for years. Refuses to get in there. Doesn't want to team
He's
build.
afraid to compete.
Doesn't want to compete. Yeah, exactly. Wow. That should have been the question at Tyler's presser. If we ever have a Tyler presser, we'll get that guy to come in and ask that question because he deserves it, because he refuses to come in and play within the framework of our league rules, which includes a play cooldown. And all he does is run stretch right, stretch left, screen, like smoke screen left, bubble screen left. And he just overloads the line and there's no way to stop it. And we're playing online one time and I'm like, I can't stop this. Like I can overload the line this way and he's just going to throw a backside screen. He ran 2 plays the whole game. Like it's not that he was better than me. It's just that, you know, he was able to spam the same couple of plays. So if he ever comes and joins the league, then we can really talk and really figure out who's the better player. I'm the reigning champ of the league, by the way. So,
there you go.
You know,
Nick, you're being challenged. Nick, if you need a player, add and then you put his. I'm a demon at Madden.
You're a demon at Madden. All right, add me at the Nick Shook on PSN on PlayStation. We got room in the league. You want to come compete? Got to come take on the champ, my friend. Reigning champ. Well, just got to fight to make the playoffs because I lost a lot of sim games while I was in Vegas for the Super Bowl. But hey, you know what? Come find me. I'm ready. Let's go.
Nick, he also asked real quick, and final 2, and then we'll let you go. We appreciate your time. With the Broncos releasing Russ, which quarterback do you think fits Peyton's offense? Sean Payton.
That's a great question. In this draft, God, I don't know. I mean, I would think maybe a Drake May, but I don't think he's going to be there. I don't think a Jaden Daniels fits. Caleb won't be there. McCarthy, I don't know. Because all we know about Sean Payton is what he did with Drew Brees, right? And since then, you know, he had Jameis for a year and then he left. He's like, I'm out. I don't want to do this anymore.
JJ so kind of feels like the Mac Jones of this trade or this draft for some reason.
Yeah. And, you know, it's tough with Mac because I felt like he had a bad situation coaching wise and the personnel around him wasn't great and he regressed. Now this year, his regression was more on him than anything, but like his rookie year, he was pretty solid. I don't know. Maybe it is a JJ McCarthy. It seems like the most likely pairing because of where he might go and where the Broncos are picking. I just feel like, I mean, they're at 12. I mean, they're a little bit outside of that range, but that is the McCarthy range, unless like this mock I'm looking at has him going to Atlanta at 8, which I think is nuts. But I also think like Justin Fields is available. But is Justin Fields going to fit? I don't think that fits what they want to do. So I think they're in a tough spot, and I think that they're going to have to make a move to get a guy, and I'm not sure who it's going to be.
And last one, Peyton Wilson looks like a stud. What round do you think he goes? A linebacker out of NC State?
Yeah, he tested really well. I don't know why, but I got visions of Pete Werner, who I hated at Ohio State, who's been a very productive linebacker with the Saints. One of those guys where I'm like, damn, I guess I was wrong. Like, I still don't like him, but he's productive, so we'll go with it. I'm not sure where he goes because he tested really well. That'll shoot him up the boards. Linebacker class is a little weird. If you looked at my picks, we had a couple guys. I think I picked the kid from Penn State. Yeah. Like Edge Cooper, I think is a stud. He's a freaking missile at linebacker. He's a hard hitter. He closes on guys in the open field like crazy. He's a good pass rusher. He's a good spy linebacker. He is the ideal anti-Lamar Jackson linebacker. He is the Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah of this draft, but bigger, hits harder, rocket of a linebacker. But I'm curious to see where he goes. And I think that when it comes to Peyton Wilson, you look at the speed and you're like, that's great. His testing was great. I'm not super familiar with his game at this point. So like the fits I had listed right now are based on need, and it's Panthers. I think pairing with him and Cole Holmcomb with the Steelers would be really interesting. Vikings, because they need to restock that group, and the Rams because they need to restock that group. But I think he can go anywhere to make a difference. Not sure which round he goes. Feels like a guy who tested well enough to be a first-round pick, but because the need at linebacker is not as prevalent as in previous years, he might end up being an early second-round pick and just be a day 2 guy, and somebody gets good value on him because there's just so much talent, especially in the offensive side of the ball, that some of these talented defenders are going to end up being day 2 picks that would be day 1 picks in other drafts.
Well, Dan Campbell surprised everybody last year when he took a linebacker so high in the draft. So who knows? Maybe
he was an all combine guy. He was.
There you go.
But it was not a good class.
Exactly. Nick, you're just a kid from Akron, right? Is LeBron your GOAT or what route do you go with that?
For sure. Not even. I went to the same high school as LeBron. In fact,
oh wow,
this football right here, St. Vincent, same area. That's where I went.
Oh wow.
I was 7 years behind LeBron. I watched LeBron from the time he was a freshman in high school. I used to go to his games when he was in high school. I was at his first MVP ceremony because he had it at the high school when I was in school. I wrote about it for ESPN's like high school publication at the time, which was like my first national byline, which is a big moment for me, a really fond memory for me. I was downtown in Cleveland in 2016 when they beat the Warriors in Game 7, and I was in the streets partying with everybody else after they won. That we partied so long the bars ran out of beer at one. I walked into a bar and I was like, "Let me get 4 Miller Lights," and the dude just looks at me and goes, "Hey, we're out of beer." I was like, "What?" Like, we ran out of beer.
Is that even possible?
Yeah, it was on a Sunday on Father's Day, apparently. I've seen his whole journey. Like, I remember when Dick Vitale was calling his games in high school when they played Oak Hill and they played Mater Dei and Darryl Strawberry's kid and all that stuff. Like, I followed him from the time he was a freshman all the way to now. And he brought my city in Cleveland a championship and ended the drought here. And I had an up close and personal, I had multiple interactions with him when he was a junior in high school. I had a CYO game, and afterward, we were at the gym because my sister had a game there, and LeBron's shooting. He's got the bleachers are pushed up against the wall, and LeBron's got his back on the bleachers, shooting threes, just drilling one after another after another. And I was like, oh my God, this kid's incredible. I mean, like beyond NBA range, just knocking him down. And he walked up to me after, and somebody didn't have anything for him to sign, so they handed him an orange, like a fruit. And he signed the orange. And I had my score sheet from my game that I played earlier, and he signed it. I still have it laminated.
Nice.
And it's like a pristine signature because he had just started signing autographs. I had the cover when he was on Sports Illustrated, when he was on ESPN, the magazine. I still have the original copies of all of those preserved. I have a plaque downstairs. I got LeBron bobbleheads back here. I got like 9 LeBron jerseys. I mean, I've got LeBron 2s, LeBron 3s, LeBron 10s, Soldier 10, Soldier 11, 15s, everything in my closet right now, just off the top of my head. He is my GOAT for sure. I know he doesn't have as many rings as Jordan. He also never got a Scottie Pippen. He also took his team to the finals in his 4th or 5th season, 2007, which is an incredible moment for the city of Cleveland at that time. Jordan didn't even get to the playoffs till year 7. Jordan had an incredible team. LeBron did not have an incredible team until he went to Miami. And I think that we cannot overlook that fact. And the fact that LeBron has not only lived up to the expectations, which were incredibly high, but exceeded them, been, blemish free throughout his career, and has done so much to help the city of Akron and the kids there. He's got his own school there. He's got another thing called House 330, where he's created a safe space for people in the community to go to in a semi-tough neighborhood that's not too far away from where I went to high school. He's got a production studio. He's doing all these things. He's a good dad. And he was a dad when he was really young. Like, let's not forget that. He was like 20 years old when he had his kid. We cannot overlook all of this and just compare him based on rings with Michael Jordan, who by the time he was LeBron's age was toast, was washed. LeBron's still one of the top 5 players in the NBA, and he's almost 40 years old. And the fact that he broke 40,000 points comes as no surprise, because other than a few times he's gotten hurt, he's been the most consistent player I think we'll ever see. And nobody gets to year 21 and plays as well as he does. He is the best player ever, and I'll stand on that forever.
And he rarely got hurt up until when he came to the Lakers. So
yeah, that groin injury. Yeah, but the Lakers were also like, they shut him down.
Yeah, they weren't. Yeah,
won a title in 2020. I'm happy about that.
If anything, I'm mad at the Lakers for their managerial malpractice with not surrounding him with shooters and just letting him cook. Yeah, that's my biggest problem.
Well, just another kid from Akron, Nick Shook. Thank you so much. You guys can follow him on Twitter at the Nick Shook. Make sure you guys check it out. Nick, thank you so much for jumping on, for taking questions, for doing everything. There you go. This segment has to be on Twitter and go viral. There you go.
Hey, look, guys, this is a blast. Thanks for having me on. A ton of fun. I'd love to come on again. Thanks for having me.
We'd love to have you on, Nick. Thank you so much.
All right, guys.